Jeffrey Maxwell, and welcome to the Lego Village. I'm Jeffrey Maxwell, and welcome to the Lego Village of Thrift.
Welcome to Lego Village of Thrift.
Thrift is an art installation made entirely of Lego brand building blocks. I didn't have room in my house to make a sprawling cityscape with streets like some I'd seen online, so I decided that my village would go upward to maintain a small footprint. Beginning in March 2016, I started collecting random used Lego pieces from various sources at yard sales, flea markets, thrift stores, and auctions. After many hours of cleaning, sorting, and organizing the Lego pieces, I've put together a nice collection of Lego. Here's the first modular section I made, even though I didn't have a base plate yet. The Thrift building code was to make modular sections that would fit on a 16 by 16 stud base, about 5 inches by 5 inches, that would stack on top of each other and would be interchangeable with each other. Many of these early modular sections, as documented by these photos from my Instagram account, would eventually be rebuilt over and over, based on new ideas and new elements that would enter my Lego collection, and although the depth has changed from room to room, the general 16 studs wide remains a constant. The first minifigure that arrived was Melvin, who became the first permanent resident of Thrift. In case you didn't recognize him, he was originally Ice Planet Blonde Guy. Melvin says hi.
Okay, I got a lot of red this week, so I made 2 red rooms. Kind of match them the front. More rooms from this week. Here's the rainbow room. More of a vertical design than the colors I've been doing it horizontally. And here is a hodgepodge with some cool columns. I've added stairwells and staircases this week. Okay, here's the 10 sections we have in our building. There's Melvin at the top. He says hi.
Let's take a look at some of the ideas that came with each successive lot of random used Lego. In one batch of random used Lego I acquired, there were lots of windows, doors, and other elements conducive to making several sections at once. So I decided to make some rooms outside the normal Thrift building code that would go together. The column would start out with a smaller section, and each modular section added would be slightly larger than the previous, so that when they were stacked together, it would reveal a unique cantilevered effect. A big batch of garage door parts resulted in experiments with this overhead garage door and the vertical blinds for this apartment. By the time the village had reached almost 30 sections, it had outgrown the kitchen counter, and I moved it into my office where it resides on a 6-foot-long banquet table. I didn't imagine how much bigger the structure would become. The plan for now is to continue to develop the design so it will not exceed the limits of one table. One of my favorite designs that came out of experimenting, building, and rebuilding is based on the Anglo-Italianate style of architecture found in New York City row houses built in the 1880s. Row houses of the northeastern United States are admittedly a strong influence in some of the ideas for the village and will continue to be a major inspiration for architectural designs in the structure. The addition of these sections have become an iconic part of Lego Village of Thrift. From standard rooftops to gardens and tree houses, the number of rooftop themes grew with each new column of the structure. My favorite was when I found most of the parts for a camper in one lot, and I decided that Melvin needed an alternate place to crash, thus the rooftop camper. The number of boats I acquired in lots of Lego helped me to determine that I would somehow have to incorporate boats into the design. So I took an existing post and beam structure and put boats on the front to form Thrift Marine and submarine sales and service. When serendipity brought more ideas and Lego pieces, the design eventually developed into its current form with the large yellow boat sign that would be one of the most recognized elements of the village. When I found instructions for the Toys R Us Bricktober mini modulars, I decided to make some with parts on hand. While the experiment was successful, I decided that the mini modulars were too big to incorporate into Lego Village of Thrift. I developed similar mocks made on a 4x4 plate that made a mini city that would fit inside a 16x16 plate. This room would become the second level of the Thrift toy store. Here is the first snot or studs not on top design I made, and here's another room where elements I had on hand drove the design. A growing number of tires added to the collection prompted an expansion of Thrift Auto Parts store. Up until I found the Lego City Police Station at a reduced clearance price, all my Lego was used. But I couldn't pass up a deal and the chance to convert an established Lego design into the Thrift building code. The largest set I have acquired is the 41101 Friends Heart Lake Hotel. As with the police station, it was an open-back dollhouse design that I converted, with a large quantity of extra pieces, into a Thrift-compatible modular design. All the interior elements are some of the best features of the Friends sets. With the addition of more boats to the collection, I decided that an important addition to Thrift Marine and Submarine would be a dry dock, which now sits atop the retail store. A real treat came one day when I acquired a batch of Lego from the 1970s and 80s. When I found that I had a complete number 566 basic building set, I decided I had to incorporate it into the village as a tribute to the original. Welcome to the Thrift Museum of Lego Architectural History. The addition of a Friends outdoor stage was a challenge to convert from its original horizontal mechanics to a vertical plan.
Here's the new mechanism and crank.
The result was an outstanding feature in Lego Village of Thrift. With opportunities to acquire more Friends sets, I added the cafe and the juice bar. Olivia's house and Emma's house soon followed. The houses were easy conversions because the rooms were already based on a 16-stud wide design. I had always envisioned Thrift as a sort of wall covering, so all the design elements were focused on the front and interiors. But when a fan of the village on Facebook asked to see what the back looked like, I started seeing it as more of a freestanding structure and decided it was time to invest time and effort into developing the look of the reverse side of the project. When I found myself in possession of 3 partial sets of Emma's house, I decided it would be a good place to start paying attention to what the reverse side of Thrift looks like. I had enough parts to finish off the back of the house, as well as add an extra room. When I found a second used, nearly complete set of Olivia's house, I completed the back of it as well. Thus a real commitment to the reverse side of the structure was made. This spring house is the first modular basement I made, and I found a second nearly complete set of the Friends supermarket so that I could make it finished on both the front and back. The first video I made for YouTube was a quick run-through of Lego Village of Thrift as it stood at about 90 modular sections. The village had just been reconfigured to make 10 columns from 8. Each time I make the structure wider, I take sections from various places so that it makes the columns shorter. Ideally, I like for Thrift to be the same height as it is wide, so that now that it is about 50 inches wide, I will build it up to 50 inches high before I will reconfigure it to make more columns. Let's just see how many sections I can stack on this table without compromising the strength and stability of the structure. When I got a second nearly complete set of the city police station, I continued my work to improve the backside of the village by finishing the reverse side of the Thrift police station. I even had enough pieces left over to add a couple of new rooms to the column. My latest idea was to feature an outside staircase around several modular rooms stacked together. Of course, once I got started with one room, it ended up with 6 new rooms and 2 rooms rebuilt from a couple of the oldest rooms in the village, including the casino. Always striving to incorporate new ideas into the structure, I came up with some things I had never done before. That is the whole idea of this experiment called Lego Village of Thrift. Here is an example of how the rooms stack together. They are built so they stack one on top of the other in a freestanding column. Each one has smooth tiles around the tops of the walls to keep the sections from sticking together. The columns are connected at the base with Techniques pins so they sit tightly side by side. Although Melvin was the first, he has been joined in the village by many other Lego minifigures. They form a diverse community of both permanent residents and visitors. Here's how Lego Village of Thrift looks now. Now let's go back and take a look at the stages of how the village got to this point.